good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you may be. And welcome to week 9 of the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series here at Sebring. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box this evening is Mr. Ed May. Ed, how are you doing? Ready for some more exciting action here at Sebring?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because obviously Sebring is such a wonderful track for racing, isn't it, Dan? We've been here, well, just last week, I believe, not just last week,
Tuesday.
48 hours ago, rather. Tuesday it was, yeah, for the VSR X5 Mazdas, but we come here now in the UK&I Radical Race Series. Always a series that I found has been quite pleasantly surprising in the racing that we've been treated to, and I've just heard from you before we came live that we're being treated to even more of the racing because is that a little bit longer this evening?
It is indeed, yes. So the actual broadcast itself now is going to be stretching to around about an hour. Obviously, before then, it's only around that sort of 45-minute mark. So it's going to be that little bit longer. We've got 20 laps around Sebring here this evening. We've got about a minute and 52 lap. Obviously, work that out. It's going to be around 35 minutes, to be fair. Maybe 36, 37 minutes of actual racing. Going to be good. Going to be exciting. Very much looking forward to it. As we're going to go to qualifying in a few moments' time. I mean, again, looking at the timing standings and also in practice as well, Simon Edwards is looking very, very fast this evening. I've been noting this in practice. I've been in the practice server for a while, and it's something that I have noticed. Having a quick look at Simon Edwards' time, you can see at the top there, currently leading. He is on an outlap as well, a 152.201. So, I mean, realistically, looking at it, to be perfectly, to be fair, Simon Edwards, he's 1.5 tenths clear of John Hutchinson. Now, we know how fast John is. Simon Edwards now just going onto his first flying lap of this particular run. Although, actually said, I'm going to almost like contradict myself here a bit. These times, we saw this in the broadcast we were doing on Tuesday. As for such a long track, these are very, very close times when you're looking at a tenth, 2 tenths of a second.
Oh yeah, very, very close racing here. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly this will all shake up. Like you mentioned, practice times very, very close. Qualifying times close as well. And I've also been having a little bit of a look around at all the action to come, what's going to be going on in the race. The cars are fuel limited, running on, I believe, 40% tanks. That's the maximum you can put in. So we're expecting there to be pit stop at some point in the race.
Yeah, exactly. There is going to be something. There is going to be a pit stop. There is going to be going to have to. It's going to put a different spin again on what the drivers are going to do, and it's going to add that little bit more. I think that's the key thing, being able to add that little bit more of actual, of actual pace as well. When you're actually looking at it, you've got to add. It's another element. Okay, so it's another element completely of your strategy. Do you pit early? Do you try and pit a bit later? Do you try and fuel save? Do you not fuel save? Sebring's a great track for fuel saving. So I wonder if we're going to see that. It's just getting to the cusp of, a bit of fuel saving may actually do the drivers well. Again, we're not really too sure at the moment. We're just going to have to see and really see how it pans out. Just having a quick look at up and down the order. Richard Brown a little bit further down. He's currently in P13, although he's on a very, very good lap by the looks of it. As we can see now, bringing up the qualifying times and the qualifying sectors down below. Richard Brown not actually on there at the moment, but we may see him come around in a minute. Good line go through the last corner. Oh, might get upset a little bit. Who was that? Couldn't quite see who that was. I think that was Dave Kirkman. That was getting a little bit sideways. But I think Richard Brown, he may be able to make up a couple of positions here. As long as he gets a nice clean run on the last corner. I think, unfortunately, no improvements this time around. Again, great grid I'm actually looking here at. We've got 19 cars with us today.
Yeah, a lot out here this evening, which is great to see, of course. Maybe they've been lured in by the promise of, obviously, this new format that we're being treated to. Just seeing, who was that spinning around in the background? Is that potentially... Just trying to see who that was, actually.
I'm not 100% sure, actually. Not 100%. Let's have a quick look at a replay, see if we've got one. And there we go. So that was Jamie Bird.
Pace spinner.
It's Jamie Bird that's having a bit of a moment. To be fair, lots of people have actually had it. We had Jamie Bird, Ray Peasley, Frankie Dixon, Phil Glover as well has had a bit of a moment. So did Dave Kirk.
I think Jamie's just had another moment.
He's had another moment. Let's just have another quick look at this, see if we can get another replay here. Coming down into turn 3. Oh, managed. I thought he was going to hold it then. Just that bit of snap did cause that little bit of time. The problem with these cars, isn't it, Ed, with this such a short wheelbase with what these cars can produce, if it goes one way, it's very, very hard to then snap it to the other. You know, you've got that... trying to think of the best way to describe it, but because the short wheelbase is if you're in a position where you're not comfortable even with that sort of small little slide, because these cars, they don't like sliding all that much. And if you just get caught up in the wrong way, as we saw there with Jamie Bird, it will just spit you out and put you in the barrier.
Yeah, these aren't the easiest cars to control, so we're going to be able to see who's going to get their setup right in the sweet spot. Because that's the other thing, these are open setup races. Drivers can do whatever they like to the car, and at the moment it seems, yet again, Simon Edwards is coming on top of the rest. Currently a tenth and a half faster than John McCutcheon, but it is good to see John back in. He's taken, I think, a few weeks away, but he's back where we expect him to be, competing right up at the front of the field. And then there's quite a surprisingly big gap before you come down to third place, Martin Booker.
Yeah, Martin Booker actually, as you say, that surprising gap of 0.4 of a second. Now, I wonder if that's going to close up any more. I'm just having a look at the sector times that Booker is doing at the moment, and it is a little bit quicker by this, from what we're seeing. His last lap was actually quicker. It was a 52.79. But again, I just don't think it's going to be all that much quicker. Lost a bit of time on that last lap in Sector 2. So I think this may be... Martin Booker's only going to have probably 1 or maybe even 2 more laps after this to try and make a position up or make any more positions up. One of the closest gaps we've actually got is between Dominic Lang-Webb and Jamie Bird, because that gap is only a 100th of a second. Now, again, a 100th of a second, if you think of that in terms of distance, right? You think of a 100th of a second in distance, it's nothing. Nothing. Half a metre maybe even less. And that's at around known as, a 2-minute lap, 1 minute 50 for a lap. Incredible stuff. So close racing, which again is what we absolutely love. And I just wonder, 52.2 has been set by Simon Edwards. That's going to be hard to beat. From the times that we saw in qualifying, I feel that may be tricky to beat, because that is a very, very fast time. A very fast time. Not impossible to beat, though, admittedly.
Definitely, and something to also consider is the fact that, of course, you could do it over 1 lap, but with the races being a little bit longer, it's all about keeping that up and managing the tyres as well, the different strategies to go on. So it's not necessarily going to be fastest driver over 1 lap, but maybe the fastest driver over an entire stint, most consistent. And also, don't forget, there's all the slipstreaming taken into equation. Maybe drivers can either choose to go for moves or choose to hang back and save a bit of fuel.
That's actually a fair point. To be fair, like I said, we were talking about that a little bit. A fuel saving initially. I wonder if that's going to present itself a little bit more, purely because of the nature, the nature of the circuit, the nature of what can happen. And, these cars, they have, in the most recent build, the pace that they've seen with that slipstream hasn't been as prominent, admittedly. However, it's still something to take into consideration, absolutely. You've got to be cautious. You've got to be wary of people possibly trying to save the fuel behind you and then all of a sudden want to try and make that move. There's lots and lots of things to consider, which is great. Again, it just adds so much more flair to it. Phil Glover has actually just now gone up into P16. He's now gone up to Michael LeMay, so Phil Glover's been dropped now to 17th because Michael LeMay has now gone up into P15. Again, only a couple of tenths away from Chris Kane, currently in P14 as well. If we just go to the gaps there, we're going to be able to see, again, Paul Clark is the person securing that top 5 position at the moment. And that is 7/10 or 8/10 of a second. Then quite a considerable gap again between himself and Paul LeMay. So again, realistically, we've got quite a good amount of sort of gaps here. But then you'll see as well, have a look. It goes from Paul Clark down to then Paul LeMay, and then there's a nice close battle there. You can see one Actually, Dominic Webb has just jumped in there straight away, got that gap even closer now. So realistically, another car getting involved. So Phil Glover just going for a small moment. That's going to cost him at least 3 or 4 tenths of a second. So his lap will be gone. 10 seconds to go left to qualify. And then that will be it. Done and dusted. So I wonder, again, are we going to see any improvements on times? I don't think we will do, because Simon Edwards is on an out lap. So that is it. Qualifying done. You can see at the top of your screen. And that is it. This is last laps for everyone. And at the moment, John Hutchinson, he is managing to get another lap in. Simon Edwards has not. So this is the last time that John Hutchinson is going to be able to have a chance at taking that top spot away from Simon Edwards.
Yes, so we'll follow him through as he's on to his final attempt, final chance for him to improve in this qualifying session. You can see him down into the hairpin. Got a car behind. He needs to make sure that doesn't bother him. Look at the way he just turns in the car responding. So up through, well, these S's. I think he's got a slight fart there, a slight moment as, a slight moment is what we've just seen happen to John McHutchinson. Oversteer, the rear kicking out, and unfortunately, that's his final chance to get up onto pole position scuppered.
Yeah, something like that. It's a shame. It's a shame. Something like that happening as well. Pushing the car so hard, just that little bit too much, and obviously caused that little bit of slide. Again, momentum just carries you around. It's so easy to have. Dom Lang-Webb, can he make an improvement going through up from P6? P5 isn't too far away. It's a 1/10.5. Can he get it? Oh, big sideways moment. Unfortunately, that will cost him time. That will cost him a significant amount of time, and I don't think he'll be improving from that lap. And no, he does not. Last one's a 54.78. Ray Peasley is actually just finishing up his lap as well. And do you know what? I think that's actually everyone from qualifying. That is qualifying done and dusted. So Simon Edwards taking the pole position for this week's race.
And cue the surprise. There isn't any to be cued, because Simon Edwards has been very strong, hasn't he, in this championship behind the wheel of the Radical. He's looked very quick indeed, and we'll expect to see him also get a good start. They have been very favorable to him. However, John McHutchinson, I wouldn't count him out. He's a very consistent peddler, and that could be just the thing to throw Simon Edwards off his game.
Do you know what? It's a fair point to think about as well. You've got to think about the actual, again, talking about strategy as well, like moving forward. I wonder if John Hutchinson's going to try and have another strategy. I mean, realistically, the gap, again, between the two, it's a 1/10.5. It's not really all that much. As long as Hutchinson can stay at least within half a second of Simon Edwards, he will find himself in a very easy position to maintain that gap, and to try and essentially, what I would do if I was in John's position at this point at number 19, I would be sitting there and just trying to save as much fuel as I possibly could. I wouldn't even bother trying to make a position, especially when you have a look at the gap between Hutchinson and Martin Booker. I mean, possibly you may see everyone trying to pull out a little bit of a gap, but if the gap can be made, there's no point fighting. Work together for the first half, then race after the pit stop in the second. That's probably what I would do anyway.
Yes, so we'll be able to see what will occur, what's going to happen in this first race of the evening. Simon Edwards there, we can see pole position for himself, with John McHutchinson lining up alongside on the front row of the grid. Martin Booker there, down in third place. Managed to close the gap down to the front two, but not enough to get himself any higher up. He's going to have Frankie Dixon alongside him to complete the fourth row. Then down in fifth position, we'll have Paul Clark ahead of Dominic Lang-Webb. Paul LeMay in seventh, ahead of Ray Peasley eighth. Darrell Taylor is ninth, with Dave Kirkman 10th place, rounding out your top 10. Then we have Richard Brown and Jamie Bird, who will complete the sixth row of the grid, 11th and 12th. 13th place, we'll see James Child ahead of Michael LeMay. Christopher Kane in 15th place, ahead of Dave Dowson, Phil Glover, Martina Ward, and Stuart Mathers.
Indeed, a good lineup, getting ready for the first race. About 45 seconds, and then we'll be on our way. I wonder what is going to happen. It's always too close to call. It's always so difficult, because we don't really know what's going to happen until at least we get through the first corner. because as we have seen in previous times, it can go a little bit wayward if everyone is not careful. But they're just about to get ready. Like I said, another 20-odd seconds of sitting on the grid. It feels like an eternity when you do this. It really, really does. It feels like an absolute eternity. But as soon as we get going, as soon as everyone starts getting away, that's when red mist descends. You're on your own. You have to have a nice, clean race. Different experience for drivers now because they've only got, well, they've got an additional bit of racing time. So that's really going to play a factor into it. There are the lights. When are they going to come on? 5 lights, and then we will be away. Lights are on, lights are off already. Nice and quick start there. And here we are away for week 9 of the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series. Oh, there's a spin already. As an incident already that's happened. Simon Edwards is going to go up the... he's going to take turn 1 with no real pressure from John McHutchinson. There's a bit of 2x2 going a little bit further back. We can see that, I believe, is Paul LeMay versus Don Lang-Webb. And then Paul Clark's getting involved in there as well. They all slot into single file as they go through, though. As we go through turns 3, 4 and 5. To be fair, a wise decision, I think, at that particular moment. You don't want to try and you don't want to lose any time initially on the start. It's never good. You always want to make sure you keep that little bit in hand until you get through the first lap. Then you can start reassessing and then you can start going again. Bit of a possible move. This might be a bit of a lunge up the inside. Oh, no, it's not. I thought Darrell Taylor was going to have a bit of a look. He did put his nose up there, but nothing more than that. And apart from that, Michael LeMay did have the incident. I think Chris Kane has also been involved as well. So big, big shame for the race series organizer to be involved in that incident early on. You can see again at the top of the screen, there is 20 laps of Sebring. We have got to be enthralled by.
Oh, Darrell Taylor having a big moment there. The car just snaps on him, and you can see in the background a very battered and bruised Radical. We're going to see if we can get a quick replay of that because that happened so fast.
Ooh.
And speaking of so fast, look at this. John McHutchinson, he's really turned the pace on, putting the pressure on Simon Edwards for the lead of the race. Was there maybe a mistake somewhere that opened the door to allow John McHutchinson to come through for a move, potentially? However, now they come onto this back straight into Sunset. The slipstream helps John McHutchinson, and already Simon Edwards feels the pressure, has to cover off the move. He'll probably be able to hold on to the lead of the race, but John McHutchinson is looking very, very racy at this early stage of the race, which could be just all he needs to do to take the lead of the race. And he's got a good exit out of Sunset. Will follow him through into the first corner. Is he going to look for a move down the inside? No, he's forced to go the long way around into the first corner. They are side by side, and there is a car ahead, and it is John McHutchinson, but he overshoots it, runs a little bit too wide, wheels onto the dirt, and there's a squeeze into the braking zone from Simon Edwards, but he just holds on by the skin of his teeth to first place. What an amazing race at the front of the field this is. Oh my word, catch your breath. Let's have a time to just see something a bit more pedestrian. Christopher Kane off in the background, and this was Darrell Taylor's moment.
Oh yes,
look at it, it just snaps on him. I noticed it, and it's so hard, and he finds, well, the most solid wall around there because there was a little bit of tyre barrier that could have saved him. And now coming back to the front of the field, these two are still at it, hammer and tongs. John McHutchinson now into the lead of the race, maybe the most convincing lead he's held this race, and he doesn't have a car alongside him. And oh my word, Simon Edwards has massively overshot the braking zone. He keeps it just about out of the wall. There's a spinner in the background. Jamie Bird's had a mistake. It's all kicking off.
It is indeed. It's all absolutely kicking off. So Simon Edwards has gone from first all the way down into P11. Might even P10, sorry. Might even go down to P12 if Ray Peasy can get a good exit, which he does. He might even drop down another position. No, doesn't. Slots back into P10. Oh, we've got to get a replay of that. I mean, to be fair, not necessarily the replay of Simon Edwards, because we saw what happened there. Just pushed that a little bit too wide, and that cost him a significant amount of time. He has got the pace, though, and also, like I said, keep in mind, he's got now longer to get back. It would only be around about sort of 10, 12 laps before. Now he's got 20 laps to try and make that position up, and he was faster in qualifying than John McHutchinson. Let's have a quick look, though. If we just go back, because I believe that was going into the hairpin turn 8. There is the move up from John McHutchinson. Nice and aggressive. They're nice and assertive. Put his car exactly where it needed to be and just held the ground. Fair play to Simon Edwards for actually holding, giving him the space that was needed. That was absolutely fantastic stuff. And as you can see now, Simon Edwards already making up a position, possibly on Dave Dowson. Dowson's going to have to go around the outside. Can't quite carry the momentum through. And that's going to leave him possibly vulnerable. Might even be leaving him vulnerable to Richard Brown and Ray Peasley. But no moves, no additional moves there. at the moment. Wow, fantastic stuff. Simon Edwards, he's got a mission, isn't he? We saw this happen actually with John Hutchinson a few rounds ago. I believe it was at Sonoma, and he had an early spin, and he came back up, I believe, to a P5 position. I mean, Simon Edwards, he's definitely got the pace to be able to do something like that again, I'm sure. It's just going to have to be very calculated, very precise.
Yeah, it was all hotted up there in the cockpit of Simon Edwards. You could see great racing there to try and carve his way back up through the field. He's going to have a job to do, though, and he's going to have to hope maybe Martin Booker can perhaps challenge John McHutchinson. Look at this, Dominic Lang-Webb right up behind Paul LeMay. Very close indeed, looking for a way through, powering nicely out of the corner. Could see Paul LeMay a little bit wide, a couple of inches or so onto the dirt, but it hasn't held him up too much. Slipstream does obviously help throughout this flat out section. They come into this really technical Le Mans section of the track through the right-hander. It's so important to get a good exit, which actually I think falls in the favour of Paul LeMay, and Paul will actually get a nice bit of slipstream off of the other Paul Clark, just down the road. So this gap should about keep itself the same. And then, of course, into sunset, they'll all rejig each other around and try and come through. Following as well, Jamie Bird, a driver that we saw come into quite a lot of struggles in qualifying, I think it's fair to say, but so far so good in terms of keeping it on the island. Look at this though, Dave Dowson and Richard Brown are having a bit of a race. I think Richard Brown has just gotten ahead coming out of sunset. So now these two are going to try and sort it amongst themselves. You can see now Richard Brown up into 11th place. Here's a replay of this. Got a good run coming out of Le Mans and into Sunset Bend. The inside line was easily taken by Richard Brown. I don't think that was fought too hard by Dave Dowson. Different lines being taken there. Richard hugging a very tight line, but that means he can pick the moment to get on the throttle as early as he wants to. And of course, that extra little bit of boost, I suppose, helps out the cars no end. Getting on the throttle nice and early. Simon Edwards again making his way up through the field as quickly as he can. Now into 8th place, I think, after just dispatching of James Child. And I think here's a replay of not that race, but another race. Stuart Mathers coming through on Martina Ward.
Yeah, Martina Ward just getting possibly a little bit sideways going on the exit of turn 5, I believe that was. So that would be why that the move is there, I believe. Because you just see Martina Ward didn't quite have the drive coming down into the hairpin. So that would be why there. Yeah, Simon Edwards already passed James Child as well. So really starting to make up some positions already up into P8. Bear in mind, though, he's now got a gap, 1.8 seconds. And naturally, as you get closer and further up the field, I mean, realistically, this is when positions are harder to make up. Although he has got Dom Lang-Webb and Paul LeMay very, very close to one another. So that's possibly a 2-in-1 move that could potentially be the case. Paul Clark, again, with damage to the rear. I don't think I've ever seen a race with Paul Clark where he hasn't got damage to his rear bumper. It's been caved in again. It's just a rite of passage, I think, at the moment, to be fair, for Paul Clark. Managing to hold off, though. The train he's got behind him, currently, doing very, very well to hold off everyone. Currently in P4, but he's got Paul LeMay behind P5, Dom Lang-Webb in 6th, only a few tenths behind. And then you've got Dave Kirkman, 1.2 seconds. And then you've got Simon Edwards already down to 0.7 of a second between himself and... so Simon Edwards and Dave Kirkman, the gap now already down. Sorry, it's 1.4 seconds now rather than 1.8. It's getting ever closer. It is getting ever closer. But Paul Clark, though, nursing the damage very, very well. Managing to just hold it. Although for how long? Because Paul LeMay and Dom Lang-Webb are so very close. I wonder if Lang-Webb's going to possibly have a try and have a move. Paul LeMay darts out to the outside to try and upset Paul Clark's line. Can't quite do it, though, but he's sticking with the inside line. That's not going to hurt. That's not going to help him. Instead, that's going to put him in favour of Dom Lang-Webb. And nothing as of yet, but I think, to be perfectly honest, I think the number 8 of Lang-Webb is just eyeing up Paul LeMay at the moment. Just seeing where he's slower, just seeing where he's faster. I don't think there'll be a move now, but maybe in a couple of laps' time, there'll be a nice decisive move from Lang-Webb. That's what I personally reckon.
Yeah, Paul could be getting done by Dom into one of these corners sooner rather than later, because you have to say the car in 6th place is looking very, very racy and trying to get himself up through the order. You can see in the background as well, Simon Edwards up into 8th place, trying to close up to this fight and come through. But a question might need to be made of when do the drivers opt to take their pit stop? It could certainly favour certain drivers more than others. I think Martina Ward gets past a very stricken car, her own car herself being stricken as well. Been a race of attrition, but I do think that the drivers get a fast repair in this race. I'll just double check that. Obviously means that they can get their cars up to scratch nice and cleanly once more, and then we'll come through. And yeah, I'll just check they have a fast repair limit of 1. So obviously that means any damage you get in this early stint, you can get it repaired and get it fixed, as Dave Kirkman, look at this, trying to find a way through on Webb, but there's no way through. It's just good car control, good positioning by Dominic to carry the momentum through the corner and make sure that he was able to stay in front. Dave Dowson getting wide, and I think was that Jamie Bird going through for a move?
That was indeed, yes, Jamie Bird just going up the inside. You are absolutely correct there. Stuart Mathers has had an incident. What has happened here? Oh, it's going through. Is it just going to be a little bit too hot? I reckon it's going to be over the curb. That's my bet. Is it going to be over the curb? Oh, just lose it actually on her own accord going through. Managed it, I mean, to be fair, very well held. It was a half spin, not a full one. So very, very tricky to maintain that. So good stuff indeed there from Stuart Mathers. Manages to hold it very, very well. So fair play to Mathers for keeping that car relatively in a straight line. I'm wondering as well, I don't know if Simon Edwards will, but I wonder if Simon Edwards will try and make an early pit stop, possibly. Don Lang Webb has actually had an off. Don Lang Webb has had a big, big off, and that's a massive spin for him. What seems like an absolute eternity that he's got to wait to get back onto the track. I wonder if he tapped the grass, possibly.
Doesn't seem damaged. He
No.
probably kept out of the wall. However, the damage is more to his pride than his car, I think. Let's have a look. Oh, very close to the rear bumper there. Ooh, that could have been very close. Seeing himself, and was that Dave Kirkman? I think that he
it
was
was,
racing
yes.
with.
Yes, you are right. Yeah, Dave Kirkman. It's tricky to do, especially if the car in front all of a sudden checks up on you. You don't, not necessarily anticipating it because you're not really, but sometimes what if you get that a little bit too close, or you are closer than you sometimes initially expect, all of a sudden you're like, oh, hang on a minute, Simon Evans is going into the pits. Right, this is what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to try and get an early pit. Rather than try and sit behind everyone and try and pass them one by one, he's going to try and get the strategy, try and get the jump in the pit to then get the undercut to then, well, he'll come out now. He should come out in clean air because he's not really going to be around anyone, I would imagine. So he's then going to try and just plug in the laps as much as he can. I reckon if he can manage this, I think that possibly a podium is still on the cards here. If he can really get down, maybe not a podium looking at the time between Paul Clark and Frankie Dixon, but possibly even maybe like a P5 or a P4 I think is on the cards here, because everyone else is racing. Simon Evans is going to come out hopefully in clean air. It's going to allow him just to crack on, to not worry really about anything else. He's got a 7-second gap between himself and Stuart Mathers, exactly what he wanted to do. I think that's going to be work out quite well in his favour. So keep an eye on him for the remainder of the race. James Child has actually had a big, big moment as well, dropping 5, 6, 7 positions. Let's have a replay and see what happens here, going down into the hairpin of turn 8. Is it going to be on the grass? I think it might very well be. Might even be on the grass. No, just loses the car on the way in. Just getting that rotation. Nearly gets collected. Fair play indeed for, I think it was Lang Webb, of taking evasive action. So good stuff indeed there. But yeah, that was, I can imagine, a little bit sketchy. Oh my goodness. Richard Brown and James Child again. I think James Child getting caught in another incident. Not good at all. Oh my goodness. We're going to have to get a replay of that. Well, until we find the replay, I don't really know what happened there.
No, I don't know either, but there was both cars off. Maybe it was a bit of front to rear contact that caused the spin for the pair of them. We'll have a look here at the replay. Okay, so side by side, and then obviously Richie Brown slots in behind. Oh, just overcooks it into the corner, spins on the exit and gets collected. Oh, it's so tricky, isn't it? Because you never know where the car is going to end up. He does the right thing. As soon as it locks up, he slams on the brakes to keep the trajectory as predictable as he can. But he slows down, I think, a little bit sooner than, well, he was expecting to. I think James Child just unfortunately, just got unlucky really with where the car stopped for him. Other cars obviously got through because they were able to see the incident earlier, unsighted from James Child, and that's really upset his race. Having a look though at the pace of other drivers in the field, Simon Edwards very quick at the moment, closing the gap down to Stuart Mathers in front, but that's not the race he's going for. He's going to be racing ideally in his world Paul Clark and Paul LeMay, and he'll be hoping that these two fight for as long as they can before their pit stops to slow each other down and give him that chance to get P4. And also, depending on the other drivers run through the pit lane, if, say, drivers are a bit too slow on the way in or slow coming out of their pit boxes, you can still find a podium, here.
There's got to be, when you're looking at sort of podiums, you've got to have an element of, confident in the pace that you've got. I mean, we're seeing from Simon Edwards, it's a 53 dead was a last lap. I mean, sorry, not a last lap. Obviously, 220. It was a quick pit stop, actually, to be fair, looking at it. We'll see what happens with the first pit stop. Paul Clark goes a little bit wide, though, going out of Le Mans. That's going to cost him big time as well. God, his car has seen better days. That has definitely it's definitely been in the wars yet again. Oh, I wonder what is going to happen here. Paul Clark squeezing Paul LeMay going through as they go now into sunset. Paul Clark has to concede the position. So Paul LeMay, I tell you what, he was thinking, I'm coming through here. You are not stopping me at the moment. Well, he's actually not stopping him. Exactly. It's not over yet at all. Is it possibly going to go side by side down into turn one? Who is it going to be coming out on top? Do you know what? Paul Clark's going to try and go around the outside. No, he's not. I think he's gone a bit too wide. Is there going to be a cutback opportunity? Look at the gap. 4 tenths. Going to go down into 3 tenths. A little bit too far back, though. So at the moment, I think Paul LeMay has actually got that move done and dusted for the moment. It was a long time in the making. I think now we're going to see the gap start to open up because of the damage that Paul Clark has.
That was a proper overtake, that was it,
really
from Paul LeMay. Squeezed close to the barrier on the run into sunset, but he made it work. There was just about a car's width, and he trusted that while Paul Clark was going to race him hard, it would also be fair, and that was definitely the case. Cracking display of talent and respect between the pair of them there. What a move that was from Paul LeMay down the inside into sunset, taking advantage, of course, of Paul Clark's poor run out of Le Mans all the way down that back straight. You could see that move was likely to happen. Look at John McHutchinson, though, up at the front of the field, building his advantage to Martin Booker and Frankie Dixon. Now 3 seconds he has to second place. It's just been a commanding, almost Sunday drive from the Scotsman.
Well, let's not say too much just yet, because anything can happen in these pit stops as well. We're just about to come on to the 10th lap, so halfway through. I wonder if we're going to... I've just noticed as well, look at what's on the back of John Hutchinson's car. Unfortunately, we can't go on to the proper camera angle because no one's actually close enough at this moment in time. But I think on the rear of that it says, chill out, it's a long race, or something along those lines. Very apt, I think, to be fair. John Hutchinson doesn't come into the pit stop as you go halfway through now. So for another lap at least, Hutchinson will still be continuing to lead this race with a 3.1 second gap on Martin Booker. Phil Glover's just had an incident we can see here as they go through again. Is it just a fraction too late on the brakes or possibly even on the grass? No, it's going to be losing it on the entry, yep. And there we go. Such a tricky thing to manage. It's so difficult. It really, really is. Because... I mean, realistically, again, anything can happen. If the rear goes, the rear goes. It's so hard to actually try to maintain the car if it goes like that, because, again, it's such a short wheelbase.
Very, very pointy, aren't they, these radicals, in terms of how they are on turn-in. They've got absolutely... When you get it right, they just hug the ground like nobody's business, and it's amazing to drive. But if you get it wrong, if you just overcook it that little bit, it will just be so desperate to swap ends on you, and oftentimes it will. As Phil Glover nearly feels exactly that. The car threatening to swap ends, but he covers it nicely. Loses ground to Martina Ward, however, and all of a sudden Simon Edwards is closing in, and we'll be hoping that he isn't held up too much and getting through. Of course, this is going to be a battle for on-track position, even if the strategies are different. Phil Glover is entitled to defence if he wants.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you can't. There's absolutely no way. I think Simon Edwards do actually go a little bit wide going through into the hairpin, so that would have cost him a few tenths of a second, which are crucial in this moment. Although Simon Edwards' last lap was a 52.9, not as quick as Hutchinson, but quicker than Booker, Dixon, LeMay, Clark, quicker than everyone else apart from Hutchinson. So second fastest man out on track, and you can see that already because the gap has come down. It's now 2 tenths of a second. I wonder if Phil Glover is not going to let up. No, I think he's just going to not necessarily make it too easy for him as he actually cuts the nose off. I thought he was going to be letting off and trying to make the move and just let Simon Edwards go through, but I don't think that is actually going to be the case. As you said, he's well within his right to defend. It is for a position, although I think it may be possibly with some maybe in vain as well. Although Phil Glover, to be fair, as long as he can put the car in the right position, might be able to keep Simon Edwards behind for a few laps. But what is going to happen, though? There is Simon Edwards pulling out, going into sunset. They're going to go side by side as much as Phil Glover is going to try and come. He might even try and get the cut back. Do you know, he might give it a good old go. He's got a good drive coming out of the last corner. If he can drag race him down into turn 1, he might maintain a bit of position, but I think he's dropping back a little bit too much. The gap is 0.4 of a second. So that is another position for Simon Edwards. And the next person on Simon Edwards' radar is Martina Ward. I'm just thinking as well, actually. I mean, Simon Edwards must be cutting it fine if he's pitted, because he pitted very, very early. I mean, we're talking very early.
Yeah, I think he probably knows when about the pit window opens up for him. However, that does mean, of course, although the drivers are able to go for longer and spend more time with a lighter car, means their lap times on average will be that little bit quicker. Of course, it should even itself out later on, but you never know exactly what the drivers plan for, what different strategies they run. Of course, having a lighter car means you're not using the tyres as much, or isn't as much weight pressing them down, scrubbing them off and wearing them that little bit more, so it might not be the most beneficial thing for Simon Edwards to go for the undercut, but I think it is realistically his only chance to get any meaningful result from this race.
Well, this is where, again, you know, we're now getting to the final 9 laps of the race. I mean, Edwards is moving up the field. He's moving up, and I don't really think... Is it Frankie... Was that, sorry? Oh, Frankie Dixon. There we go. So the first person. There we are. There is Frankie Dixon going into the pit. So the first of the top 3 is now going in with 8 laps remaining. We can see just ahead, I believe that's Michael LeMay that's also in the pits. So everyone now gets promoted.
Where's Simon Edwards going to be?
Well, I
That's
think, is that, do you know what, that's a very good question. He's going to come up behind, I would imagine.
He's overshot his pit box. I've just seen that he had to reverse, so... Oh, my word, this could be a nightmare for Frankie Dixon, spending longer than he wants to, longer than he should do in the pit box, whereas Simon Edwards going to be, he's rounding his way through sunset now. Oh, this could be very close. Frankie Dixon is up and moving, but I think that extra time spent in the pit stop has cost him. No. Yes, he has. Through ahead on the field, on the racetrack goes Simon Edwards. And Frankie Dixon, he'll be absolutely kicking himself after all of that. But what is the gap between Dixon and Edwards? Around about 3 seconds. And was that the gap between
I don't
John
know.
McHutchinson and himself before the pit stops?
I think it was around maybe 4.5. That's what my sort of guess would be. I mean, it's going to have to be a very, very tricky look. Oh, Frankie Dixon straight away up the inside of Richard Brown. He's going to go, yes, thank you very much. Off he pops. And that is another position for Frankie Dixon, not holding up and not taking any time to get past as many people as he possibly can in this final half of the race. I think the gap was around about 4 seconds, I believe. It may have been a little bit more, actually, or maybe even a little bit less. Who knows? So I think it'll be tricky for Simon Edwards, I think, to gain that sort of P2. Martin Booker, he's close enough, I think, that I really don't think he'll be losing enough time in the pit stop. So Simon Edwards probably will have to be settling, I would imagine, for a P4, comfortably a P4, possibly a P3, but it's going to have to be very, very aggressive on the remaining laps. Just looking again at his timing, so Simon Edwards at a 53.85 was last lap. Again, John McHutchinson, 52.59. So McHutchinson is just on another level at the moment in terms of pace. And we can see that with the gap that he's pulling on Martin Booker.
Definitely. However, Simon does have a lot of clear air. You can see the next car, Ray Peasley, is 24 seconds up the road, which means Simon's got all of the time he needs in the world to enjoy this Sebring circuit by himself. And then figure out where the pit stops will put him. Because, of course, let's not forget Frankie Dixon was in 3rd place. That's obviously that mistake in the pit stop has promoted Paul LeMay and Paul Clark 3rd and 4th. I still reckon Simon Edwards will probably come out in 3rd position. Maybe close to Martin Booker, depending on the pace. But like you mentioned, John McHutchinson has been on another level, and we'll expect to see him, I think, comfortably back out into the lead race once all of the pit stops have been sorted out.
Well, 7 laps, and then we're going to find out. This is a battle between Frankie Dixon and Martina Ward. So Frankie Dixon again sends it up the inside, and carbon copy what he did to Richard Brown a lap or so ago. And that is another position. But so Martina Ward still doing a very respectable position, currently in P10, but a pit stop has not been made by Martina Ward as of yet. So pit stop still to come at this moment in time. So Frankie Dixon, look at that. He's only got one person now. Well, there's no one separated in between himself and Simon Edwards except a 3.5 second gap. And I wonder what that is going to come down. If anything, though, they might even both be able to pull themselves away. The good thing with Frankie, well, I say the good thing, you can see, looking on board with Frankie Dixon, he can see Simon Edwards up ahead. He can see Simon Edwards up ahead. He's in a position, he has got less fuel on board possibly as well. That's one thing to take into consideration. But ultimately, there is a gap that can be seen, and there is a car that can be seen ahead. Just needs to make sure, keep the composure, hit the marks, don't do anything drastic, and you will catch up. Dom Lang-Webb now in the pits. That's going to promote both Simon Edwards and Frankie Dixon up as well. Still no pit stop from John Hutchison, Martin Booker, Paul LeMay, Paul Clark, Dave Kirkman, Ray Purcell. None of those guys have pitted as of this moment in time. So the first person to now pit, actually realistically, is Simon Edwards in that train. In the train coming down, P8 is the first person to now have pitted. P7 actually, that has just been corrected as they go up. So the top 6 still not pitting yet. Dom Lang-Webb just coming out on pit exit. Still, unfortunately, losing out on a position to Frankie Dixon and Martina Ward. Also, Darryl Taylor will be losing a couple of positions as well because he is now in pit lane. So I wonder how long these guys can actually go on for. I think, to be fair, everyone's really going to be able to go on for... Well, I mean, it must be getting close now to a fuel stop, surely.
Yeah, it depends how much you've been able to save, if you've been able to work it out in your head. We did see, I believe, the pit stop from Simon Edwards on lap 5, so it wouldn't be completely out of the question to see drivers pitting in from lap 15, maybe onwards, depending on what they've been able to do on the fuel situation.
That's your
Let's have a
point.
look at Martin Booker here.
So running their own race.
Into the pits. Yeah, basically just in his own little bubble, in his own little world. John McCutcheon into the pits. Will Martin Booker follow him through? No, Martin stays out for one extra lap. Look at John McCutcheon there in the pits. And what will the gap be to Simon Edwards? Where will those two come out? Simon Edwards just coming through the Le Mans section now. So a big advantage for John McCutcheon, it has to be said. However, the cars do spend a decent length of time stationary in the pit lane. John McCutcheon stops in his pit stall now. Simon Edwards is making his way into sunset now. We're able to see when John McCutcheon gets his car up and running. He's actually moving now. What a drive it has been from John McCutcheon on pit exit. Simon Edwards rounds his way through sunset, but streaking off into the proverbial sunset is John McCutcheon, who has just got such an advantage now to one of his nearest competitors, probably his nearest competitor, Simon Edwards. 10, 11 seconds is the margin. So a very good drive there from the Scotsman.
Indeed, absolutely. The one person I'm intrigued about is Martin Booker. Now, the longer Martin Booker can go for, he's going to spend less time in the pits because he's going to take less fuel. The gap was around 3 seconds, or thereabouts. So Ray Peasley as well. Let's not count Ray Peasley out. But Martin Booker, there he is. I tell you what, it's going to be, if it's a clean stop, if it's a very clean stop, my guess, and providing it was a clean in-lap, if Martin Booker does pit this lap, I would take a guess and say that when Martin Booker comes out, the gap is going to go from around about 5 seconds to around about 3.5. It's going to have a chunk taken out of it, I reckon.
Another thing to notice as well is the cars do spend a surprising length of time stationary in the pit lane, taking on fuel. So maybe, I'm not sure if iRacing models this or not, because I think they'd have different fuel flow limits for different cars. I don't know if the Radicals actually have, obviously, the pressurized fuel hoses and such to load the cars up with fuel quickly. Maybe it's basically the equivalent of just dumping jerry cans into the back. So if you are able to save that extra lap, that could help out no end, depending on how fast the fuel is put in. So Martin Booker comes in to the pits from the lead of the race. What can John McCutcheon do to try and close the gap and get out in front? Because you'd imagine that he's likely a favourite for the race. You can see he's just gone past Ray Peasley in the pit lane. Martin Booker is on pit exit, but John McCutcheon sweeps on by into the lead of the race. So Martin Booker, while he did spend less time in the pits, he unfortunately has not been able to close down to John McCutcheon. John's outlap was actually very, very quick indeed. And he's found himself now with a 5.5 second advantage to second place.
John Hutchinson's lap was actually insanely fast because the gap extended. So
I
was completely wrong. So don't listen to anything that I say anymore. Yeah, I mean, wow. John Hutchinson, didn't necessarily have the qualifying pace, which we do see from him occasionally, but manages to pull it out of the bag for the race. This has been absolutely fantastic stuff. Simon Edwards, though, P3. So I've been proved wrong yet again. I don't know what I'm talking about, clearly, as it turns out.
Well, I mean, you say about the qualifier pace wasn't there from John McCutcheon. He did put it on the front row. So
he did, to be fair.
Give him a little bit of credit going the way of John McCutcheon. And consider, well, we know the one lap pace of Simon Edwards is something fierce. It was just that one little mistake that had a massive effect on his race. However, to come back through into third place has been very good. That decision, of course, to go for the earlier pit stop has been working wonders for him. He didn't get bothered getting caught up in the fight between, obviously, the likes of Paul LeMay and all the rest up there for fourth place. I think Paul Clark was up there as well. He just kept his head down and just churned out the lap times, and to be fair, that has worked an absolute treat. Look at these two, they were following this, and we've been talking about other things, but we're going to focus on this. Dominic Langweb and Dave Kirkman racing together. So, Simon Edwards, is that a mistake from him? He's dropped back 2 places.
He has indeed. Oh no, he just loses it on Le Mans. And he has to wait though. Fair play for actually waiting, and he just has to wait. It's going to feel like an eternity for him. So Simon Edwards, such a shame, because that has cost him big time there. Really big shame for Simon Edwards. Dropped down. He was in P3, bear in mind. He's all the way down back again in P6. But he might be getting back up to P5 if he can get some good laps in.
Oh, Dominic's got to run. Oh, but he has a little twitch on the exit. I thought for a moment we were going to see a great run from Dominic, but you could see how to overcorrect that little bit of twitchiness, that little bit of oversteer that was just creeping in on the exit. Gets a nice run, though, through the first corner. You could see that Dave Kirkman had to get on the brakes. I think Dominic also had to get on the brakes a little bit, slow it down on the exit to not run wide into the dirt and unsettle the car. But Dominic is looking very racy at the moment, isn't he? Again, getting these later apexes, driving nicely out of the corner. Again, he's going to have a run, but this time it's going to be into the hairpin. Will Dave Kirkman hold off the inside? Is there a move probably opening up for Dominic? No, there isn't. So he's going to have to be late on the brakes around the outside. It'll be an amazing move if he can pull it off, but no, doesn't. At all. He overcooks it. Too much steering lock on. He was going for the cutback, but that extra amount of steering lock unsettled the car, and meant he spun it all the way around.
Not good. Frustrating, I can imagine, for Langwell. That's really going to frustrate him. To be fair, it would frustrate anyone. Not ideal at all. What's happened? I think Jamie Bird's had another. Paul LeMay has actually had an off as well. What has happened here? Oh, Paul LeMay again. I tell you what's probably not helping as well is the bumps. The track is...
the tyres as well.
It might be the tyres. Yeah, that's the point. A longer race, and the tyres may be going off. I can't imagine anyone's taking tyres. That would be probably something that wouldn't be worth taking. So yeah, maybe people just aren't quite used to these tyres yet, and the fact that they go on for a little bit too, obviously with the extended race distance, yeah, maybe the tyres are starting to drop off. Very good point there. But at the moment, 2 laps remaining, so drivers haven't got long left to maintain on these tyres, but I think this is going to be actually quite a steep learning curve for some people as well.
Yeah, definitely certain drivers realising that the race is being a little bit longer, need a different approach perhaps, and we're looking at a good approach this from Darrell Taylor, trying to get up to the back of Richard Brown and find a way through. They come into the Le Mans section now, obviously careful of that first curb. If you get a couple of wheels over there on that right-hand side, it can just hook you around and spit you off. So Darrell Taylor doing good and a good run out of Le Mans, but Richard Brown is getting a slipstream himself off of James Child, so it'll be difficult, I think, for the car of Darrell Taylor to find a way through. But look at all the different lines being taken through Sunset. Which one is the best? Well, that could be Darrell Taylor's, because he's going to have an absolutely amazing drive out of the corner. Into the first they go, but the inside line is being held by Richard Brown. And I think, he could be able to hold on to this. Again, another cutback being attempted. Good drive out of the corner. A move could be made down the inside if he's late and committed on the brakes, but thinks better of it. Dips back in behind. So Darrell Taylor, he realises that this is still a long race and doesn't want to risk a move that maybe he wouldn't pull off. He wants to be absolutely sure that it's going to be a clear-cut overtaking opportunity before he can go for it. In all of this, in forcing Richard Brown offline, Richard is in danger of losing the slipstream to James. And when you lose the slipstream, you are just so totally vulnerable to any cars behind you on these straights. Again, a good drive from Darrell Taylor here. This could really be his chance to get up into 13th place, you know.
It's going to have to be a bit of a late lunge, but it's not quite there yet. Only one more lap to go, though, so if it's going to have to be, it's going to be sometime. It's going to have to be sooner rather than later. Just noticed up as well, we haven't forgotten because Simon Edwards is trying to make a move on Paul Clark, so we're going to go to that in a second. Oh, that was a bit of a break. That was a bit of a dabber break, say you saw from Richard Brown. Darrell Taylor couldn't capitalise on it at all. Just wasn't able to capitalise on it in the slightest because he was just essentially blocked. No fault of Richard Brown's, but unfortunately not able to make the move. That's Richard Brown going a bit wide. The move isn't going to happen here, but it's going to be a run straight down into Sunset, one would imagine. A relatively clean exit from Taylor.
Strong.
But yeah, Richard Brown did get a better exit. While Darrell Taylor was nice and clean, Richard Brown did get a better exit. And you can see that gap has really helped him because, look, it was 0.4 of a second. He's dropped a couple of tenths, but that's a wide line from Darrell Taylor. Wow. And, you know, it might even come out in his favour.
Oh, he's trying to avoid the bumps, you know, by going for that wider line. It's less bumpy on the outside than it is on the inner line. Means obviously you're a bit more confident being able to pick up the throttle and not have it absolutely try and murder you. But it's just not working out. You can see as well different approaches taken by each of the drivers, working in their favour one way and then the other. James Child has probably got great views of all of this fighting in the background. Of course, though, you can notice a little bit of damage on the rear wing of the car ahead. So that could be playing into this battle. We might be seeing it become a three-way fight sooner rather than later. Two-way fight, though, for fourth place. Paul Clark trying to hold on, trying to hold Simon Edwards back as they make their way into the Le Mans section, into the Le Mans curve. Oh, this looks like a good run. If he can get on the throttle nice and early from Simon Edwards,
wow.
He does get a run.
What a drive.
Paul Clark had an amazing drive as well, coming out. So now down on this back straight into Sunset. Different lines could be taken by the drivers. It's all about sort of what you feel works best for you. Very wide there from Paul Clark. And actually that forced him offline. He hits a bump, has to overcorrect, loses out. Oh my word, and James Child has had a mistake because all of a sudden Richard Brown is going for a move, looking to put a car between himself and Darrell Taylor, which he does, but Darrell is going to follow him through as well. We're on the white flag lap as well, let's not forget that. John McCutcheon far and away glass of the field up at the head. But that was we were watching those two fights. We went to one fight and then the other fight was kicking off as well. It was action everywhere we looked there.
Well, again, the great racing that we've seen from the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series. Again, absolutely fantastic stuff. You know, again, and plus as well, you know, while we've got possibly a little bit of breathing room here as well, just to let everyone know as well, there is the white flag being waved very, ferociously, as we normally see it. As well, the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, the community as well, and all the guys racing, everyone racing, they're actually supporting a charity as well. Apologies for not mentioning this at the start, but they're supporting a charity called Live Life. An amazing charity. There is a link in the description below if you want to go and have a catch up with it. I think, again, with all that's happened, with everything that's happened now, with the last couple of years, it's something that I think, you know, mental health is really, it's something that needs to be discussed. So if you do have a chance, you know, please go and check out the charity and donate if you wish. The link is in the description below. But here we go. John Hutchinson, Sunset for the final time, goes perfect line on the way in. Can he get the exit on the way out? Yes, he can indeed. John Hutchinson didn't put a foot wrong all race. And look at that, taking the race victory for week 9. I'm sure he's going to be happy with that. And I do not blame him in the slightest, leading by 9.5 seconds. Absolutely fantastic stuff by John Hutchinson. Can't complain at all. Martin Booker comes across the line in P2. And then ultimately, out of all of that, Frankie Dixon just going to come across the line. Only Simon Edwards 6 tenths behind, but he can't quite make it back. So Frankie Dixon back up into P3. Simon Edwards having to settle for P4.
Yeah, great racing this evening. I think as well, was there an incident in the race further down the order? I think there might have been. Did James Child perhaps have a moment? I'm just trying to look on my timing software that's been playing up a little bit, but I did notice some positions changing around about on that area, so we might have a look down there. I can see that Darrell Taylor has dropped back,
that'd
and
be
that was
why.
Daryl Taylor that had a moment there right up behind Richard Brown. I think it was just too eager on the throttle. Martina Ward comes through as well. It was just a little bit too throttle happy, I think. And there's Ray Peasley having a moment into sunset, onto the brakes, locking them up to keep the trajectory of the car, and then trying to pick up the throttle, but the car was already still moving, and that looped him all the way around. Daryl Taylor, though, finishing in 14th place, just behind Martina Ward in 13th. I think we're just waiting for one further driver to come across the line, then we can bring you the finishing results. And unfortunately, Dan, after running through the finishing results, I have to go because, of course, these longer races have meant that I've got some slight schedule conflicts afterwards, but I'm still very glad to be able to talk through all of the action here at Sebring. So hopefully when we have the final driver make his way out of that last corner and across the line, we shall bring you the results. You can see Richard Brown there doing some donuts on the run through turn 1. Celebrating a good, fair race that he's had as well. He's been involved in quite a lot of action.
I think that's one way to put it. That is absolutely one way to put it. Here we go. So results are going to come on the screen now. And there we are. Jumbo Hutchinson taking the race victory again with a 9.5 second lead. Fair enough indeed. Martin Booker coming home in P2 with Frankie Dixon in P3. We've then got Simon Edwards in P4, Paul Clark in P5 with Paula May in P6, Dave Kurtman 7th and Dominic Lang-Webb in 8th, Ray Peasley P9 and Dave Dowson rounding out the top 10. Jimmy Bird P11, Richard Brown in P12 with Martina Ward in P13, Darrell Taylor 14th, James Child in 15th with Stuart Mathers in P16, Phil Glover in 17th and Michael LeMay in P18. And then we have, unfortunately, Michael LeMay unfortunately not able to finishing 12 laps down, and then Chris Kane finishing 20 laps down with that early incident at the start of the race. But Ed, as you were saying, we have to say goodbye to you, unfortunately. It's been a pleasure as always, and we look forward to catching up with you next time out.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a great race this evening, hasn't it? Sebring never disappoints, that's for certain. You can see drivers lining up in the interview waiting room, and I will have to take my leave, Dan, but I'll leave you in the capable hands of all of the drivers here that I was talking about just how exciting that last race was.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic stuff. Pleasure as always, Ed. Look forward to catching up with you soon. And so, while Ed has to make his way out, we are going to be bringing in, at the moment, we're going to be bringing in the first person of the interviews, and that is Mr. Glover. How are you doing, Phil? Can you hear us?
Hopefully I can. Can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you loud and clear. We can hear you absolutely loud and clear. Phil, interesting race, P17. I mean, again, what was that like for you? It was definitely, there was a lot of action, but as well with this sort of the slightly different racing format as well. How did that go for you?
Well, it was going okay. I think I climbed up to 10th, and then my pedal boards come dislodged from my rig. So it's gone up against the wall, in front of me, which ordinarily might be okay, but I'm in a motion rig, so it was going all over the place.
Right.
It's probably rubbed all the wallpaper off the wall, I should imagine.
Well, not ideal. I mean, to be fair, considering that incident there, considering what happened there, with a hardware issue, I mean, very good to still maintain and to continue and crack on. How did you enjoy with the extended race? Did that sort of, I know obviously with the pit stop as well, the mandatory pit stop, that must have obviously put some, what was the, different strategies obviously having to think about as well as you were moving forward. What was the strategy going in? Was it wildly different to what you were doing before? Was there a bit more conservative driving, a bit more fuel saving here and there?
Not really. I'd kind of worked out, I think I needed to put about 4 gallons of fuel in. And ironically, just as I think Dave was behind me, I told him I was pitting, and then I just couldn't get my foot on the brake properly, and I ended up crashing into the to the sidewall, but I was straight into the pits, so that worked out quite well.
That's an opportunist, an opportunity that you brought yourself there. A good place to crash, which is a very rare thing that you can say.
Well, there is that, yeah. Yeah. Bit disappointing though. I need to look at why it's. I think it's vibrated loose. But anyway, not the end of the world.
Well, I think, like I said, we've got next week, and let's say a bit of time to have a look at it and to set it all up and to have a bit of an investigation. But Phil, again, fantastic. Always good to catch up with you. Really look forward to seeing you next week as well and having another catch up. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for attending the race as always, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Yeah, pleasure as always. Catch you next week. Take care.
Take care, Phil. So there we are. Phil Glover, unfortunately, with a position at P17. Not the ideal position that Phil would have wanted, but at the same time, something that is obviously, I think realistically still a result that I think that Phil Glover is going to be able to move from as well and move forward with. We're just going to bring in the top 3 as well. We've got everyone in here. Gentlemen, we're going to quickly run through. Firstly, congratulations to 3 of you for P's, for P1, 2, and 3. Frankie, just want to start with yourself. P3. I mean, that was a bit of a roller coaster of a race, to be perfectly honest. I think especially with we were P4 obviously until around about the second to last lap. What were the thoughts running through your head when you saw that you inherited P3 again?
Well, I was in P3 obviously till I pitted, missed my pit stop, so I had to reverse, so I lost a few seconds. And then, when it came out, Paul, I think he was about 4 seconds behind me or so when I went in. I come out a couple of seconds behind him, so I was just pushing, hoping he'd make a mistake, and luckily for me he did, and luckily for him. But managed to get my P3 back. Martin and John in front were just, even when I was sitting behind Martin, in the first stint of the race before the pit stop, they had a little less rear wing than me, so even on the straights it was just a case of trying to stay in the draft because I couldn't catch, but them two are ridiculously fast, so P3 I'm happy.
Well, I think, as you say, P3, very, very good stuff indeed. And then, moving forward to next week as well, obviously with the extended format and the extended racing, are we going to be doing something? Are we having to approach this slightly differently now, or how are we approaching these new extended race lengths?
Yeah, well, I today you could have 40% of maximum fueling. I didn't put that much in. I thought I'd be in a train, so I put a little less fuel in, hoping to get an early stop to get into clean air to then get ahead of some of the trains. But obviously that didn't work out because I was in P3. So obviously tactics will play a little bit more of a part. John, who came first, didn't even know there was a pit stop until he was in the race, so congrats to him for not even knowing what was going on and still winning. But yeah, tactics will come into hand, which makes it a little bit more interesting to obviously be in the race and I'm sure watching.
Well, absolutely. As you say, tactics really, it gives everything, it gives the broadcast a bit more of a, like I said, we've got lots of more things to discuss, actually, to be fair, with that sort of pit stops, and it puts everything a little bit more out in the open for what's actually going to happen. Frankie, again, really good to catch up. We're just going to quickly move on to P2, Martin Booker, in a second, but again, well done on P3, and we look forward to catching up with you possibly in a similar circumstance next week.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
So moving on, P2, Martin Booker, congratulations on P2.
Thank you very much.
Moving forward as well, qualifying pace, really good as well. Race pace, really good, really consistent. I mean, again, same question to yourself. Like, what was it like managing? Because we were actually seeing a little bit towards the latter half of the race. We saw a little bit of a few people having sort of issues with tyres. Were you finding that yourself as well?
Well, no, a few people. I've heard a few people say that, and I was expecting. I hadn't actually done a full race distance on this set, so I was slightly worried I was going to start shredding my tyres. But I think John will say the same. My tyres were absolutely fine towards the end. I was slowing down because I realised trying to catch John wasn't going to happen without killing myself. So, but no, tyres were fine.
Oh, good start. Well, to be fair, if you're able to help, and manage the tyres in a controlled way, then that's actually going to put you in really, really good stead for the latter half, the final sort of third of the season. Speaking of which, going into the the final few weeks of the season as well, 3 weeks remaining, or 2 weeks remaining, 3 weeks remaining, I should say. What's going to be the game plan, especially moving forward to directly next week? Again, are we going to, naturally, we're going to try and sort of ride this wave of this P2. Are we going to do anything different going forward into next race? I don't know. I'm just trying to refresh my memory of the track. But is it a track that we're familiar with?
It's Alton Park, which I love, and I'm determined to do well there this time because I killed myself unceremoniously there last last
Right.
season after having good pace. But no, I don't have a game plan, honestly. I just rock up and drive as fast as I can for however many laps and see where I finish. I've not got any great strategy.
That's fair enough. No, that's fair enough. At the end of the day, if it works, it works. No, you can't complain with that at all. Well, brilliant, Martin. Like I said, congratulations again on P2. Really, really good stuff indeed. Good to catch up, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you possibly in similar circumstances at Alton Park.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
Take care. And then moving on, so we've got a couple more interviews with us. So first off, well, we're going to quickly have a chat with the main man of the hour. I mean, John Hutchinson, P1, but not only P1 by 9.5 seconds. I mean, race pace wise, it was just relentless. I don't know what it was like from your side. Was it a difficult drive? Not in a difficult drive in the sense of obviously battling, but was it difficult to keep up that pace all the way throughout the race? Because we were hitting consistently at like a mid to high 52s, which is very impressive pace around here.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. It was painful. I've got sore arms now, rather bumps and stuff. It's not the easiest track to drive, as you probably know.
Very true. Yes. It does take its toll on the arm, especially if you've got like a direct drive wheel or something similar.
Yeah, it's trying to get consistent around here. That's the key. It's key in every track, but this one's difficult because of all the bumps. You hit a bump the wrong way, you can, you're off. You're in the tyres before you know it.
Yes. Very, very true. Very true indeed. I think as well. What was the key to maintaining that race? Were you doing anything again with tyres? Like, was there something you were trying to do with tyres or something? In regards to, because again, you were maintaining that pace, and your last lap was a 52.9. So again, you're only less than half a second off of your best lap time the entire race. What was the sort of again, moving forward with the tyres, how did you manage them? Was it just sort of be a bit more conservatively in the midsection of the corner? Like, there must have been something, surely.
To be honest, Daniel, I've never had problems with the tyres in this car, so I don't know what I'm doing different from everybody else. I don't know if it's my driving style or what, I don't know, but it doesn't matter how long ago, tyres just stay the same to me. The first couple of laps were important to me, because to try to get in front of Simon, and I could see I had a faster car in the straight, so I tried to get by him while the tyres were still cold. So I think he just outbraked himself at turn 9 or something. So that was the key for me. That was the game plan at the start, and then just drive away.
Brilliant. Well, and like I said, look where we are. I said 9.5 seconds of a gap later, and we take the win to Sebring. No, really good stuff, John. That was a very, very impressive drive, and something I'm looking forward to again seeing yourself at Alton Park. It's gonna be an interesting track. What's Alton Park like for you?
I love Alton Park. It's a different format, different layout from the usual drive. There's a chicane at the end of the straight, which will be a bit because that turn, can't remember the name of it, but it's got a strange name.
I know what you mean. It rings a bell, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that corner's awesome, flat out almost. So it's going to be different this year.
Okay, I mean it's going to be absolutely fantastic. It's going to be really, really good fun indeed. Well, I'm looking forward to it very much. So, John, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, fantastic. Very, very pleasure to catch up as always, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
No problem. Thanks, Daniel.
Take care, John.
Bye-bye.
Right. And then final interview, a first for the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series since we have been broadcasting. I believe it's Martina Ward is in for a bit of a chat. Martina, can you hear us?
I can. Hi, guys.
Good stuff. Martina, how are you doing? How was everything for you? That was definitely an interesting race, and we ended up with a P13 overall.
Yeah, finally. It is the first interview for me, and I feel I was like, I need to share that I actually felt very good in this race. I had a clean race. I didn't get involved in any unfortunate racing incidents or other incidents. So I'm actually pretty happy that I kind of finished where my actual pace is. There were a couple of freebies at the end of the race. So yeah, I probably would have been P15 if it wasn't for that. So yeah, I am really, really happy with P13.
Brilliant. Well, that's fantastic. Like I said, it's one of the things where we have been, obviously, throughout this season, we have seen you have been caught up in a few instances that have been very, very unlucky for yourself.
Yeah.
I think, again, this must be a good confidence boost going forward into the latter half. I mean, Alton Park's a tricky track, to say the least. But this must have been a confidence boost for you going in now to Alton Park next week.
Yeah, absolutely. It has. I've had to reset myself in the last couple of days because I think I was just losing my focus and spreading myself too thin between cars and a bunch of other stuff I'm doing. But yeah, since last night, I promised myself I'm focusing on the Radico. I'm gonna do a lot more practice, and I'm gonna show what I really can do with more work being put in. So I'm very much looking forward to Alton Park. I really like that track. It's like it's made for the Radico. So yeah, it's gonna be great fun.
Brilliant stuff there. It's going to be fantastic. The Radicals round there. I've seen a few races of that before. It's a fantastic combination. Really good fun and something we're very much looking forward to. Martina, really good to catch up. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up with you more in the final few rounds with after with post race interviews. Really good to catch up. And like I said, good luck for the next race, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks very much, guys, and thank you for the amazing broadcasts you're providing for the league.
No problem at all. Very much appreciated, Martina. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, bye.
There we are, Martina Ward rounding out the interviews for us, and that is it. We are going to have to wrap up. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Big thanks to Ed as well. He was actually feeling a bit under the weather today as well, so really big thanks to Ed for being able to jump on board and to give us some fantastic commentary as well. Always a pleasure to commentate alongside him. Next week, Alton Park, tricky track, interesting track, going to be absolutely fantastic. As always, it's a pleasure to broadcast the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series. Again, link to the charity that is sponsoring Live Life in the description below if you would like to donate. But we are going to have to wrap up. As I said, as always, everyone, make sure until we see you next week, take care, stay safe.